So, a little over a week ago, many of us reveled in the energy and excitement that was all over downtown. Bus wraps and window displays for the Final Four, hundreds of visitors roaming the streets, sporting their college teams' names, and bars overflowing with those cheering for their new favorite team on to victory. The tickets for the Final Four became the hottest in sports, and the person responsible for the seamless and flawless execution of the event was Monica Gustin, VP for Business Development and Executive Director of the 2024 NCAA Women's Final Four for the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. Monica has been at the pivotal point of events at the Sports Commission for almost 12 years. She coordinates and submits the bid proposals. To appreciate the impact of her efforts, just think back over the past 5 years and the events she successfully captured and hosted. MLB All-Star Game, the NFL Draft, the NBA All-Star Game, and of course, the Women's Final Four. The economic impact of the events approaches almost $300 million. She began her career as the business development intern at the Sports Commission and quickly rose to a full-time role as Director of Business Operations and was promoted to her current role in early 2023. She serves on the board of Bright Winner, was recognized by Crain's as a notable LGBTQ executive, and lives in Hingetown. If you're wondering if she is a basketball fan, the answer is an enthusiastic yes. She played on the women's basketball team for her alma mater, BWU. I'd like to please welcome Monica Gustin.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm going to steal that intro from you to move forward wherever I go. So really appreciate that. Thank you to everyone for spending your lunch break with us, talking about the Final Four, talking about what happened downtown and in our suburbs. Just 10 days ago, we crowned a national champion here in Cleveland. So I do have some slides. Don't be intimidated by the first few. There's a lot of words on it. This is going to be more just chatting about what happened. And I look forward very much to questions that Rachel will have later for us. So for those of you who don't know, the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, our mission is to measurably improve the economy of Greater Cleveland, enrich the community by attracting, creating, managing, and enhancing significant sporting and competitive events. And that's one thing that I would point out. Any type of competition, we are game, we are in, we have an interest. So I always use that as a preface to anybody that we talk to about this. Later this year, we're hosting the International World Yo-Yo Championships. So it's got a competition. There's a winner at the end. So our job is to go out, attract, enhance, and help folks pull off these type of events as long as they have some type of competition with them. We host major events here for economic benefit. That is our key driver in how we make decisions, what we go after, and how we really put our all into making them better and more successful here than anywhere else. As we all know, repeat business is a lot easier than new business. So we like to pride ourselves on those year-over-year events that we can land as well, whether it be volleyball events. Yo-Yo's been back 3 times now. Let's see when we can get the Women's Final Four back here as well. So we use this as our mechanism for tourism. We consider ourselves an industry leader. The bid process for whether it be NCAA championships, national governing body championships, such as USA Triathlon that we've hosted with our partners at the Metro Parks, or others, USA Fencing, any types of events like that, it's highly competitive, and these are used throughout communities all across the country and world. So what just happened this past week with the Women's Final Four, April 5th and 7th, a lot of record-breaking momentum. I'll let the NCAA's kind of graphics here speak for themselves. Broadcast for the national championship game reached 18.9 viewers. It totaled over at any given time, over 20 million folks tuned in. It's the most watched Women's Final Four ever, most watched championship ever. We outpaced the men this year by a little over 4 million viewers. Incredible stats. National semifinal game had 7.2 million viewers. For the first, which was a great matchup between North Carolina, South Carolina, and the UConn-Iowa game, 14.4 million viewers. To put this in perspective, last year, the national championship game had about 9.9 million viewers. So we doubled that here in Cleveland. And anytime you saw a city skyline shot, yeah, I got chills. Anytime Cleveland was mentioned on all of the ESPN broadcasts, we got chills. So that's another reason why we host these type of marquee events. Perception changing. If you're not here enjoying the event, you're seeing these images and you're hearing about Cleveland on ESPN, on ABC. Social engagements off the chain, all had hashtag Cleveland, see you in Cleveland, women's Final Four Cleveland, this is Clee. Outstanding numbers. One item that's overlooked is just credentialed media. This has grown so much in the past couple of years for women's Final Four, women's basketball, women's sports. This has more than doubled, I will say. And it's not just sports news outlets that we saw either. It was Good Morning America. It was the Today Show. It was Entertainment Tonight was here, again, covering these student athletes, these coaches, these personalities. And Cleveland was all a benefactor of this. We had over 1,000 volunteers actualize to help us pull all of this off. So when we think about why Cleveland, what happened in Cleveland, this is just the attendance numbers, broadcast numbers that we saw. So getting into it, what does this mean for Clevelanders and what does this mean for visitors? Women's Final Four bounce, first time that we had sold, that this has been sold out in recent years post-COVID. 2,500 kids got t-shirts, basketballs, paraded around downtown Cleveland for free, a free event. Town saw record numbers. If anybody went with their families or by yourself, over 20,000 fans went to the Fan Fest. Super Saturday practice, this more than doubled as a free event just to see the two national championship teams practice in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Super Saturday concert, we redeemed 8,000 tickets for the Super Saturday concert, 3,000 attended. Party on the Plaza, great numbers here as well. And read to the Final Four, which I'll get into in a minute. But these are all community-driven events. So this has nothing to do with the broadcast numbers. This is all driven by folks that came here for specifically the Final Four, whether they came from Iowa, whether they came from South Carolina, whether they came from any of the 47 other states that we saw here. This is driven by locals, and everything on this page was free events as well. So when we think about economic impact, which we'll get to, it's going to be a large number. When we think about perception changing, it's going to be, those are significant numbers. But this is really the less talked about part of why we host these major events. Our whole community showed up, whether it was they went from Town to the Eclipse Festival, or they went to Super Saturday practice and did the bounce. These are, legacy events that we'll have created memories for Clevelanders and anybody that visited here. And it was a beautiful weekend. So that was just the cherry on top there. Other significant folks that were in town, Women's Basketball College Association had their annual convention here. Almost 2,300 coaches from all over the country were here for at least 3 days for their annual convention, experiencing Cleveland, staying in our hotels, going to the parties that were hosted, spending their dollars here as well. This is a big convention. No matter if it's with the Final Four or separate, this is a big economic driver as well. We know that there were over 50 other private or public events that we were tracking on through this weekend, whether it was a USA Basketball fundraiser that was at the 9. The Browns had a private event with Women Leaders in Sports and Women's Sports Foundation at the stadium. These were all private events that would not have been here if it weren't for the Women's Final Four. And I tried to attend as many as I could. Another interesting piece that was in town, USA Basketball, their team is almost finalized to go to Paris for the Olympics. They had their training camp here at the Cavs practice facility out in Independence. Huge impact that we've seen before we even have the economic numbers back to us. But again, this was so much more than that, with all these free ancillary events that are sometimes overlooked if you didn't attend one of these, on why we host these types of things to leave that lasting impact. I mentioned read to the Final Four. We had over 6,300 third graders. So 6,300 third graders participate in months-long reading program. They read over 13 million minutes. They read and tracked over this. We had 12 different counties involved and 119 classrooms. So when we talk about impact, there's the economics to it, and then there's hopefully lifelong readers that we encourage to take part in this reading program at the third grade level. Huge impact, again, that we're having on the whole entire community. Another great piece here is the Legacy Court presented by Dove. NCAA partner Dove, ourselves at the Sports Commission, our partners at the MAC and Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, looked to Boys Hope, Girls Hope in Garfield Heights. If you haven't been there, please look it up. Go see it. It is an incredible place. Up in the top right here, you'll see the before, right? The before of the gym. And in these other photos, you'll see the after. Brand new court. Beautiful legacy mural that was done in partnership with a Cleveland artist, Antoine Washington, and some of the scholars at Boys Hope, Girls Hope were invested and involved in designing and painting. There's also a resource room that Dove provided a few years worth of products for these scholars to utilize to not only be their best selves on the court, but off the court as well. We are so grateful to Boys Hope, Girls Hope for allowing us to do this in their facility. Product is fantastic. Again, economics behind it and this lasting legacy that we'll have at Boys Hope, Girls Hope in Garfield Heights. The next we are very, very proud of, Connecting Cleveland. This was a brainchild of the Sports Commission, the Mid-American Conference, and Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. We were going to do this program whether the NCAA was bought in or not. We are glad that they did for Connecting Cleveland. They brought on one of their corporate champions and partners, AT&T. Connecting Cleveland was an entire afternoon of about 200 college-aged attendees with about 40 executives from not only Greater Cleveland, but national brands. So think of tables of 10, 8 students at each, with 2 executives that we called mentors for an entire afternoon of panels, and then followed by discussion. It was an incredible afternoon at the City Club of Cleveland. They were fantastic hosts. There were headshots available for students, and I got mine done as well because look at this setup. But folks got to hear from Ari Chambers, a multimedia journalist, Arike Ogunbowale of the Dallas Wings, former national champion, former student athlete who we recruited to be in the room. We had leadership from ESPN at the highest level. We had leadership from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Vice President of Basketball Lynn Holzman was on one of the panels. This was a super impactful day that we are very, very proud of, not only having started it here and the impact that it had on about 30 different colleges were attended. And that's just, we don't have 30 in Northeast Ohio, so that these folks were coming from all over the country to be a part of this event and the Women's Final Four. Very, very, very proud of this program in particular. And we are very excited to know that next year in Tampa, it will be Connecting Tampa. The year after that, it'll be Connecting Phoenix. So we've made our legacy here in Cleveland with those that attended for this specific event, but also the NCAA will remember us as, oh, this is a place where we can go try new programs, see how Cleveland will do it next time we host it there. So really proud of this one. Last and certainly not least that I wanted to highlight is our student athlete engagement group. This is 18 Division I female basketball players were in town for the Women's Final Four. We had our very own Cleveland State attendee. Destiny Leo was a part of this with 17 other D1 athletes. They went to Resource Cleveland and had one heck of an afternoon where they learned about seeding, new plants, how to grow, how to take care, and of course, how to get them on the basketball court. Lots of selfies involved, lots of high-fiving, lots of keeping in touch after this. But again, this is one program that you probably didn't hear of while the NCAA Final Four was in town. But we were behind the scenes making sure, again, the economic impact is going to be there. This is an elite mega event, but also the community leave behind legacy that we have is something that we take very seriously and are very, very proud of. So that was 15 minutes-ish of everything that happened kind of during the Final Four weekend. Before we open it for any questions, wanted to share that we are currently going through our economic impact report and calculus with tourism economics. And we are very, very excited to see how that has changed since 2018 when we bid on this event. We were estimating $22 million of impact. From what we've seen with viewership doubling, tickets selling out in 15 minutes, please don't quote me on that, but it happened. What we're seeing with the media interests that were here, we expect this number to go up and are really excited to share this with the community at large and anybody that's thinking of hosting a women's sporting event in the future. The dollars are there, the impact is there, the product has always been fantastic. And we're just excited to see where women's sports goes in general. Just the other night, WNBA draft had 2.4 million viewers. That was more than the last Major League Baseball draft on television, Major League Soccer, Major League Hockey. The numbers for women's sports are continuing to grow. And for having our community been a small part of this is pretty invaluable. So Rachel, I'll kind of hand it back to you for any questions, but would love to have any discussion with folks that comes up.
Monica, thank you so much, and congratulations on such a successful and wide-ranging experience that weekend. I think my most important question for you is, how are you doing now 2 weeks later after hosting thousands of people in our community?
We are so ready for Pan American Masters games coming up this summer. That is going to be fantastic. We also are hosting a few other NCAA championships that will keep us busy. But certainly, would be remiss without mentioning not only Mid-American Conference, Rocket Merge Fieldhouse, but Destination Cleveland and just the city of Cleveland and tons of other partners that helped us pull this weekend off. Between Final Four and the Eclipse, the Guardians were so gracious with their space of Gateway Plaza specifically, and the underground space that they partner with Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse with their largest day of the season to start it off. The community put their full weight behind making sure that each party that had a huge event going on downtown had exactly what they need. So we're feeling good. We're still riding this high, Rachel.
What was the NCAA's perspective on how Cleveland did hosting the event compared to the other Final Four locations they've used in prior years?
That's a great question. And we felt this about 18 months ago, to be honest. We deal with every time we host an event. Why are we going to Cleveland? We would love to go somewhere with a beach, maybe year round. We would love to go to what's more of a typical destination. So we counter that head on. We make sure everybody is ready to be received with that white glove service, whether it be a small private party for Home Depot execs of 50 people. We connected them with the Rock Hall. These are just things that we went through to ensure everybody had a great experience here. And the biggest piece of feedback is, wow, we can't believe how your community supported this event, whether it be, a certain individual student athlete effect or the Don Staley effect or whoever your favorite is. That was certainly a part of it. But what we did in preparation as a community made it all seamless for the entire state of Iowa to be here. For anybody that has even, attended South Carolina, their alumni group was here in the Hyatt Arcade partying, I think all weekend. So all of those factors we counteracted early, and we delivered as a community on, oh, we've got to come back here.
So the planning for this starts years ago, and you have an expectation of what might be happening, but then you have this matchup that is just bringing all of the attention. And what does that planning look like? And then how did you pivot? How did you start to plan for how big it really was going to be?
So like I mentioned, in 2018, we bid on and were awarded this event. The world has certainly changed with hosting large events, small events, gatherings, everything like that. But with women's basketball specifically, there was a year where they had the bubble in the championship. That was a huge test for them. Immediately following that, it was the gender equity review of what came out of that, famous picture of comparing locker rooms. So the NCAA was changing and evolving with that. In Dallas last year, they had all three championships, Division 1, 2, and 3, take place in the same weekend. So Cleveland was really this, okay, we are back to what we know best. Not only now do we have all of this support coming out of the gender equity review, my friends at the NCAA will say it was the worst time of their life, but now it is the best thing that has happened because it really shined a light and gave resource and heightened everything that's going on. So it was the perfect circumstance of events to have just this ultimate matchup, because of course we were going to add the eclipse, we were going to add the opening day, we were going to add this matchup of defending national championship champions undefeated and Iowa. UConn was also here. They travel well. The surprise of NC State. It was really just this confluence of events that just blossomed here because of the preparation from our friends at CPD and our first responders. We have one of the best arenas in the country, just hands down. And the Mid-American Conference runs championships. That's what they do. And they host their championship in Rocket Mortgage. So it was just the perfect sequence of events of all of our teams locally here learning alongside, I will say, with the NCAA and women's basketball staff, because who knows where this ceiling's going to be. I don't think we're close. And we're just excited to have them back next time as a proven entity of, all right, bring it here. Let's try it. We'll figure it out.
So let's talk next time. What is a realistic timeline for it to return to Cleveland? And what do you think might be some of those key elements that would help us secure this again?
Certainly having a fantastic turnout, viewership, experience in 2024 will help. The next time we would be able to bid on the event is 2032. They are awarded until 2031. So let's hope folks have a long memory, and we'll keep that business development going. The great news is next year we're hosting D1 men's basketball first and second rounds. Major piece of a championship. 2026, we're hosting D1 wrestling. We know that Northeast Ohio is just a hotbed for wrestling. This is a wrestling part of the country. So we can knock that one out. And the ones that follow, just keep delivering on all NCAA championships.
As you were headed into the weekend, what was your greatest worry in pulling all of this off? And how did you plan to address those worries?
All credit to our teams that were prepared. Like I said, the venue arena was transformed, right? It was absolutely transformed. If you saw pictures of the inside, the student athlete area, the bowl itself, the exterior, convention center, all of those type of things. But we were all just down for whatever was needed to make this successful. The stakes are super high. We've had experience with this recently with NBA All-Star Game, NFL Draft, Major League Baseball All-Star Game. This was really one of the more profound sporting events out of all of those. This was an actual, competition taking place. So there was heightened a little bit there. It wasn't an all-star experience with that kind of white glove service. It wasn't a draft, which is basically a made for TV, fantastic party. So this was really one of the, we were ready for it. We were ready for competition of this scale. And with the rise of women's sports right now, once you got folks on the phone, everybody from our community was ready to be involved and a part of it.
As you think about the experiences you had this weekend or that weekend, what was your favorite?
My favorite was open practice. It was not even on my list to attend, but to see a free event in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse where teams are, please don't quote me on this, just doing layup lines. They are just there. General admission, free. You just had to walk up. You could have a ticket. It was an atmosphere like no other. People were cheering, clapping, dancing, interacting with student athletes on the mic, on the court. It was just an unprecedented turnout. And the atmosphere there was, I got, choked up at the open practice because, again, it was layup lines, but it was youth teams, a youth girls team, youth boys team. It was adults, all there just to see their student athlete that they're cheering for, or just to be a part of rising this game together. It was pretty special.
With the success of an event like this, what does that mean for the future of professional women's sports in Cleveland? Thinking, could this bring back a WNBA team? What else could that bring to our community?
We are so excited for the NWSL opportunity that our partners at Cleveland Pro Soccer are continuing to work on. With the success of a Final Four like this, and with the rise of women's sports, there's an appetite for it. So we are, all in on our community helping however we can, to highlight not only what could be, but supporting Cleveland State women's basketball. They're right in our downtown corridor. Whatever community programming that we can do at the Sports Commission, we are going to lean into young girls in sports, and young people in sports, because we know young people that play sports become adults who lead. And that is just going to, make 1 + 1 equal a lot more than 2 here for our community in the long run.
Over the past year, sports betting and wagering has really come into play for many sporting events. How might that have affected that weekend or the work that you all do?
It was definitely a conversation. I know there was some legislation passed on prop betting, and we worked hand in hand with our friends at the NCAA to really ensure, student athlete safety, attendee safety. But it was certainly a conversation that we had, and we let our friends at the NCAA take the lead on that one.
And as you look ahead, what event would you like to secure or secure again in the future?
It's hard to pick a favorite, right? It's like picking a favorite child or relative or anything like that. But this one was special, and probably because it was the nearest in calendar. I would look forward to having this back along with any of our other velocity events. And don't sleep on that International Yo-Yo Championship I keep talking about. It is something to see, that's for sure.
How can leaders of various organizations continue to support you, the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, for all of the plans you have in the future and for our city?
There's so many different ways to be involved with the Sports Commission. If you know a young person, we have a paid internship program that hosts, I'll get the number wrong, maybe 16 to 20 interns per year. So connect us, have them apply. We are always looking for volunteers for all of our events, whether you be a fan of cross country or just a fan of the outdoors. There's a spot for you there. If you're a big basketball person, we've got tons coming up, volleyball. Volunteering is a huge way to be a part of the Sports Commission. We also have an associate board for younger professionals to get involved with the Sports Commission. There's plenty of different roles, committees to be involved with. And then the hope is that folks from our associate board will become members of our big board, as we call them. Our big board is so impactful and necessary for everything that we do. When we have an event in Cleveland that's hosted by the Sports Commission, it's really hosted by the entire community. So there's just so many different ways to get involved, and everything can be, found on our website too.
So we have time for one more question. As you reflect back on the experience of the planning and hosting that event, what is your biggest leadership takeaway from this experience?
My biggest leadership takeaway is everybody's going to be interested in these large events. Make space for everybody, whether it be someone that just has a specific volunteer desire. They could change the course of someone's experience from out of town. There's just so many different ways to be involved, and to get people involved. Just ask for it. Folks in our community are in love with Cleveland just as much as all of us at the Sports Commission are. So asking for that extra, hey, we need help with X, or do you know anybody that does Y? The involvement from the community has really just blown me away. So that would be my biggest takeaway, is, folks want to be involved and are going to be more than willing to, especially Clevelanders.
That's great, Monica. Very wise leadership advice to share. Thank you. And your passion for this work is beyond palpable. I don't see how anyone could ever say no to any bid that you submit. So we look forward to many, many more sporting events heading the way of Cleveland. And you've got all the folks on this call pledging their support for your work. So thank you. Thank you for all that you do.